Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the half-year career reset with Office Real Talk. If you've been with me for the first 2 episodes, we have already focused on getting honest with ourselves of where am I now. Then the second episode was about communicating your impact and celebrating your wins. So what's the third episode about? Well, this is about where we start looking forward. This is about communicating. This is about asking yourself, where do I want to go? So let's get into it. My name's Taz. I'm a woman. I'm brown. I grew up in Birmingham. I was raised by a single mum on free school meals. I've spent the last few years navigating corporate exec life. And what I've learned over the years is there is a set of corporate rules nobody is saying out loud. And that's why I created this podcast. This space is for us to unpack those rules and to help you figure out how you want to navigate the system and engage with it. I would love for you to follow on Office Real Talk on Instagram or TikTok and subscribe on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts so we can get more of us listening and winning in the corporate world. So first thing I want to talk about is life first, then work. What do I mean by that? So most of you guys probably listen to a bunch of other career podcasts. You probably follow a bunch of career influencers. You probably follow a bunch of other people like me who, work in corporate or used to work in corporate and talk about their careers. And what I've found since consuming that kind of content is that most of those career conversations are about putting your career first above everything. And I think that there is definitely a space for that. And there is definitely a time for that. And I have definitely done that. And I talk about that a little bit in episode 1 of this series. But I think if we're honest with ourselves, putting your career above everything else in your life can be quite a difficult way of navigating through life. Because there is always going to be things that happen in your life. There is always going to be things happening around you that need to work in tandem with your career. And when they don't, and they're misaligned, it creates friction. And friction comes when 2 things don't go hand in hand. Now, I'm not saying that there's an idealistic world where everything in your life and your career will work in tandem. Absolutely not. But can we take intentional action to make sure that they align where they can? Can we at least think about them in conjunction with one another? Can we actually think about intentionally how they come together? Because when we do and we show up differently, we might get different results because we're taking different actions. Remember the lucky formula: strategy, intention, action. What I've learned is when you flip things around and start looking at your life first and then your career adjacent to that and how it fits into that, you start living on your own terms and figuring out what it is you're working for, rather than just working in a system that is so difficult to navigate for so many of us, in a system that will keep taking more when you let it, in a system that is relentless. And so building that career to fit into a life that you are building on a more macro level has definitely been the winning strategy for me. And I think it could be for you. So the framework for this episode is life and non-negotiables first, then looking around the work, then getting into the work. And I'll explain what I mean by each of those. So life and non-negotiables is pretty simple, right? What are the things that really matter to you? Where do you want to be in your life? Do you want to be in this country? Do you want to be traveling all the time? Is your non-negotiables your health? Is it your fitness? Is it your partner? Is it your children? Is it your family? Is it your caring responsibilities? What are the things that come first, right? If push comes to shove, what are those things that come first? Then the second is around the work. Now, around the work isn't the work itself. And a few episodes ago, I think I talked about the fact that most people in corporate are not burnt out by the work. They're burnt out by the system and the culture. So when I talk about around the work, I mean the organisation, the flexibility of work, the culture, the relationships, and your career itself. And by that, I mean the trajectory of your overarching career. Are you on the right kind of career track? Do you want to change? Do you want to pivot? All of those things are around the work. They're bigger questions you need to sit with and you need to identify. And then the last is the work itself. Your goals in the job, how you've arrived at them. Are you moving the needle on them? How they're working with your line manager? Are you delivering on them? It's your day job. Once you get the first 2 right and you are really intentional about what your life is and what needs to happen around the work, what needs to be true around the work, then you start focusing in the job. Most people start in the job and they're like, I need to hit all of these goals. And then when you're not and you are trying to push through relentlessly, everything else in life suffers. Your non-negotiables go away. Your around the work dreams go on pause. You don't apply for that job abroad. You don't do the things that you want to do for the life you want because you're so busy trying to prove that you can be good in the job. It's the wrong way around. And I'm saying that to you sitting here as someone who has had a very successful career. It's the wrong way around. When I lead people and teams, I want them to be good in the work. But I know that they're not going to show up good in the work when all the other shit in their life is not working. Most of my time managing people isn't talking about the work. It's about figuring out why they're feeling the way they're feeling. Why are they showing up the way that they are? What is happening with them? So let's do a bit of reflection. What are the 2 or 3 things that are non-negotiable for you in H2? Not in the work, non-negotiables for you. Your health, your family, time, balance, money, flexibility, whatever they are for you. What are they, though, that are non-negotiable for you for the rest of the year? Remember, 6 months for the rest of the year. And secondly, are you currently protecting those things? And if you're not, what needs to change for that to be true? Because if you're not protecting the things that matter the most, then what are you doing? Let's talk a little bit about around the work and in the work. They're probably things that people get stuck on and can't differentiate. So I want to get really clear and help you understand that. Around the work is about how you feel about everything that sits around the day job. Are you happy in the role that you're in? Do you want to move roles? Are you happy with the culture that you're in? Do you like the organisation you work for? Do you like their values? Do you like the flexibility and the policies that come with the job and the organisation? Do you like the location and ways of working where you work, i.e. enough time in the office? Do you wish you were working abroad? Do you want to make a big move? And if you do, what are you going to go and do about it? Who are you going to talk to? How are you going to go about it? How are the relationships around your work? How are the stakeholders around your work? There's all the things that you want to think about that sit around the day job you do. The job itself doesn't exist in isolation. We all exist in a bigger ecosystem. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. So this is about leaning into that. So sit with the stuff around the work because it's really important. In the work, no matter what you do, no matter what your goals are, if you're going to stay in the job that you're in, even while you're looking for something different, even if you decide you're not looking for something different, even if you know you want to move like me. I went into the start of the year knowing I was going to move. I knew that last year. I was going to go and get a new job. But while you're in the job, you must continue to deliver. So you get really, really clear on what the goals are. Are they locked in with your line manager? Are they still the right goals for H2? Are they moving in the right direction? If they're not, what are you going to do about it? Let me tell you one thing. If you and your boss aren't aligned or locked in or do not have agreement on what your goals are, it's going to make it very difficult for you to be recognized and rewarded. Because you might believe you're over-delivering on your goals, but if your manager doesn't believe that they are your goals, let alone that you are over-delivering, you are not going to be happy when you get the pay review, the bonus, the promotion conversations, because you are ultimately misaligned on the most important thing, your deliverables. So if you want to get aligned with your line manager, you should be having a one-to-one or a mid-year review or an alignment conversation on goals. That should be happening. You are entitled to that. If that doesn't happen and your boss is not the kind of person that engages on those things, and there are those bosses that exist, I would write to them. I would write them an email saying, I just want to align on our goals for the next half of the year. These are the goals that we had for the first half of the year. This is what I took them from and to. Remember what we talked about in the last episode? This is how I achieved them. Therefore, for H2, this is what I believe the goals to be. Can you confirm that this aligns with what you believe? Or if there's anything you want to change, it would be great to have a conversation on this. And even after the conversation, you should follow back up in writing. If your goals aren't written down somewhere and they aren't acknowledged by both you and your line manager, and your organisation doesn't have a system or a framework that does that, build it yourself. Get aligned, because it saves surprises later. Do not be unhappy when you didn't get the pay review you wanted. And they say, well, I don't believe that you've delivered on X, Y, and Z things. And you're like, oh, well, we didn't agree that we were meant to do that. Take it into your own hands. You might not be getting what you need from your line manager. That doesn't matter. You have to show up differently. Remember, strategy, intention, action. Your non-negotiables and around the work, they're things that you can pivot on. Your in the work literally dictates how you're perceived, how your performance is rated, how you're paid, and how you're rewarded. So you better align on that if you want to get to where you need to, and if you want to get what you deserve, and if you want to make sure that you are both speaking the same language. For each layer, your non-negotiables, your around the work and your in the work, Be really clear about where you want to be by the end of December. So let's do a bit of an exercise. I love this exercise and I do it with my team a lot. And there's a few different ways that this exists actually. So Amazon use something called the press release concept. The press release concept is where you tell the story or you write the press release for the product or the thing that you're building before you build it. So it's almost like this is the vision of what we want to say at the end of this, and then you work back from that. And it's about how do you want people to feel? What do you want them to say about your product? What do you want them to talk about? What do you want them to, what do you want people to be quoted? What do you want the numbers to look like? And so I'm not asking you to write a press release for your life or your year, but I always have said to my teams, and I used to do this with one of my bosses, right? And I used to love doing this with him. We'd say, imagine it's the end of the year. It's the end of the year and it's our Christmas party or it's our end of year review or and we're all sitting down. And me and him would always say, we're sitting down, our end of year leadership team meeting, and me and him are having a coffee. It's time to reflect on how the year's gone. What do you want to be saying about your year? And him and I would talk about that all the time. And I do it with my team too. What do you want to be saying about your year? What do you want to be saying about you? What do you want to be saying about your non-negotiables? What do you want to be saying about around your work and in your work? And don't just think about the version of you that performed well, that sprinted hard at work. Think about the version of you that feels good about how you lived and worked in H2. The version of you that isn't just how your managers will talk about you. It's how the people around you will talk about you. And more importantly, how you'll talk about yourself. And remember, you can't keep everybody happy and you can't compare yourself with everybody else. So that's hard. What do you want those few words to be? And if those words were to be said about you or by you, what needs to be true and needs to happen on your non-negotiables, around your work and in your work? Remember, you don't need a long list of achievements to be able to talk about at the end of the year. You need a few things that you do well, the few big things that really matter about life and work. And I'll tell you mine today to keep myself accountable. By the end of 2026, I would like to have consistently delivered an episode every single week of Office Real Talk and have increased the number of people who listen to this and get value from this. I would like to consistently show up on Office Real Talk on social media and have increased the number of my followers to 10,000 by the end of the year. And I would like to have settled into my new job by the time you listen to this, which I will have just started, and be delivering on my 3 big goals that I've got in there. And around the work, I would like to have done a few more big trips, spent time with both my grandmas more, and spend more time with some of my childhood friends. And my non-negotiables are, I will not let my work schedule dictate my gym and exercise schedule. Pilates 3 times a week, gym twice a week, non-negotiables. Never working weekends on the day job. Because remember, if you're not saying it out loud, you can't hold yourself accountable. So here I am saying it out loud to you. Okay, so for the next steps after this episode, I just want you to notice. Notice when you're working in a way that feels aligned and in conjunction with your life. And notice when you're showing up and working in a way that doesn't, when everything in your life gets put on the back burner. I'm not asking you to fix all of it, but I am asking you to start paying attention to it more because it's not going to change unless you change it. But to change something, you must first identify it. Okay, that's episode 3 of our 4-episode series on the half-year career reset. So next episode will be about taking the action. We know where we want to go. Remember, you've got time to listen to these episodes again and again, but just figuring out what are the few things that you want to do. Don't have your long list. Say them out loud and just notice when work and life isn't aligning, and it is. Thanks very much for listening. See you on the next episode.